I speak to you this morning in an hour of anguish. We are one family, and today we are all heartbroken. We're all searching for answers. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine?
Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden. And Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had two planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. That shouldn't have happened.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. The title today is going to be DEI, the new Trump boogeyman. So everything that doesn't seem to fit on number 47's agenda, and a lot doesn't fit in there. And I wonder just how deep it goes with Project 2025 and the orchestrators of that kind of thing. And also Stephen Miller's, his white man fear. If DEI was the problem, then we've got some questions to ask. And I'm not going to show video clips of the airplane crashes and the helicopter crashes and the air ambulance out of respect for the families and the people that died there. But I do have some questions. So the president has said that DEI was the problem. His vicious attack on DEI that day was literally unprecedented. He claimed without any facts, without any justification, without any proof of what he was saying, he claimed DEI was involved. Well, I've got a question about that, because if DEI was the boogeyman, the Baba Yaga of the problem or the issue, why is it that there hasn't been a commercial airlines crash in the United States since February of 2009? That was a commuter flight that was inbound to Buffalo that was working through the winter months, as I said, in February, and they ran into icing conditions and stalled out short of the runway, lost lift to their aircraft. Okay, 2009 to 2025, there have been no problems. The DEI that he worries about, or that he refers to it as, was in effect at all that time. How is it that nothing happened till just now? I say he's using it as the boogeyman. When we were kids, Mom and Dad used to tell us not to get out of bed at night because the boogeyman was under our bed, or don't go into the attic, or don't go into the basement because the boogeyman was there. I posit that number 47 is telling us to worry about the boogeyman of the DEI because he wants us to think that's what the problem is, and he wants us to focus on it. He wants us to look over here while he's working over here. Now, it's not hard to see through his act. Everything he does is transactional, and everything he thinks about has to do with money. It goes back to when he first used to call and say his name was Barron and that he knew Donald Trump. And he would be talking to Forbes magazine, by the way, and he would be recorded, not realizing he was being recorded, and then they would play it back there at Forbes, and it would be him talking about how he knew that Donald had many more billions of dollars than what Forbes was reporting. And the Forbes staff would literally laugh because they knew it was his voice. And it's funny that he used to use the name Barron and then later had a son named Barron, that he chose the name that way. But I digress. The boogeyman, Baba Yaga, is out there in the form of DEI. And there's been no problems until he came along and said, look, this is what it's all about. He wants us to believe that he chased the boogeyman away by proclamation, by memorandum, and by executive order. Okay, so that's all paperwork. And it happened on the 22nd of January. He held a press conference and he showed that he was signing the paperwork proclaiming that the FAA had been cleared of any boogeyman. DEI was no longer enforced and that he had returned it to its own excellence. Those are his words, folks, his excellence. His words, they returned to excellence. Well, that was on the 22nd. On the 27th, as you all know, and then one day later, we've had 3 aviation aircraft come out of the sky for one reason or another, and I'm not going to speculate on any of it. I'm a licensed FAA private pilot. I know how intricate those exams are. I watched one of the investigations of a friend of mine who died in a crash, and although everyone basically knew what was going on with it, it still took a year to get to the root cause so that they could publish it and make recommendations. It's not going to be an overnight thing, and yet he has already declared that it was the FAA's fault. If he purged the FAA administration of all the DEI boogeyman, how did everything happen shortly thereafter? I don't think 47 was expecting any of this to come out and expose him. I'm sure that when those accidents happened, he went into a little bit of a shock, and he had to find something to blame, and he blamed it on DEI, the boogeyman. Okay, fear is his stock and trade for people. Division in fear is his stock and trade for keeping us all, in check so that he can get away with what he wanted to do. But then, oh yeah, didn't he just fire the FAA director without telling you? And didn't he kill the director or the agency of transportation safety without telling you? But it's going to come out in one of the clips that I'm going to show you today. You're going to hear a person off camera reading to him on a proclamation he's signing that, pause that a directive has been written or a memorandum has been written to the acting FAA chief. And you need to pick up on that because nobody knew that the FAA chief was gone.
Thank you.
Second, for your signature, we have a presidential memorandum titled Immediate Assessment of Aviation Safety. In light of the damage done to aviation safety by the Biden administration's DEI and woke policies, what this presidential memorandum orders is for your Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator, in this case, acting FAA administrator, to basically ensure that we are actively undoing all of that damage, that we are assessing how much damage was done, and that we're ensuring that people hired within the FAA, in keeping with your memorandum of January 21st, are only the most outstanding, capable people for the jobs that they're being hired into.
In other words, competence.
Yes, sir. Elevating competence over every.
How did he get lost in the trade? Well, he didn't exactly get lost. He got walked out the door by pressure from Elon Musk. Why would Elon Musk be involved, you're asking? Well, it seems that Elon managed to blow up the biggest rocket in history, and he managed to dump it all over the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? Now, I'm not taking anything away from SpaceX. They have leaps and bounds. But when you blow up enough parts, the FAA, who's in charge of anything that comes off the ground and goes into the air in airspace in the United States, has to ask questions. It's their job. They have to ask, they have to investigate. Well, every time Elon's company blows something up, which they've done like, I think 3 or 4 explosions with Starship, the last one being the most catastrophic and the most well-publicized, shall we say. FAA comes in, stands you down, and then you have to go through all sorts of checks and balances to make sure that you're not going to do it again. I mean, any pilot that's out there flying or anybody that's in the flying community knows that you so much as even break an approach directions or departure directions, or you have a small ground incursion, or you fail to comply with ground operations, yeah, the next thing you hear over the radio is that the tower has a number for you to copy. And that number is a telephone number that you're going to be calling because, yeah, the paperwork just started. You know, the nightmare of an FAA NTSB investigation has started with those words. And Elon didn't like that. So Elon was allowed to chase the FAA director out, and nobody was appointed. Well, again, what he does in the background that you don't hear about, that you don't see, that you don't understand, is all covered with the smoke and mirrors of the boogeyman, Baba Yaga. Sooner or later, more of you will catch on to its smoke and mirrors. Keep your eye on the ball because there's nothing to do with what he's showing you. Everything he shows you is what he wants to distract you with. I've got a bunch of clips that are going to be included in this. There's going to be a couple of B-rolls. I guess my question is if 47 wants to be the strong leader, like he talks about with Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un, and all the others, all the other dictators of the world, how is it that he can't manage to assume any responsibility of his own? Okay? You can't chase away problems that you proclaim to be DEI with memorandums, executive orders, whatever you want to call them. Paper doesn't get the job done.
I think the president was race baiting to take attention away from this. He let Elon Musk force the resignation of the FAA administrator at the beginning of the administration. He disbanded on day 2 of the administration an aviation safety committee within DHS, and the reason for disbanding it is we want to focus on national security. What air safety isn't national security? He has got an OMB director who was pushing a hiring freeze and federal funding pauses, saying, I want to traumatize the federal workforce when we already have too few air traffic controllers. This president is starting off just within a week and a half an anti-safety agenda that is going to hurt our air safety, and he desperately did not want to be asked about that. I think that's why he went the race baiting route, because he realized, wow, we just sacked the FAA administrator, we just sacked the aviation safety board. Man, they're going to come after us. We better blame somebody else.
So far, all he's managed to do is blame his problems on everybody else, and he fixes them with paper orders very quickly. But then tragedies like what we watched last week happen, and they expose him. With all due respect to the families and the people and the victims of that accident, I will not show those videos. I will just say, thank you for listening. My subscribers humble me every day, and I can't believe that as many people, as many countries, as many cities around the world are watching. My analytics show me in places that I never dreamed people would be looking at. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. Have a wonderful Sunday. I hope you have an excellent day. Thank you.